See, when we last talked with Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South, it was after a win over Arkansas State. We were not quite sure what we were going to see from Arkansas this year, but we had seen two nice performances, and the last two games have happened since then. So Connor is here with us right now. Of course, he's the national senior columnist at Saturday Down South. Connor, woof. That's all I got for you.
Yeah, double woof from me. That was... I said afterwards, just diabolical. The type of loss that Sam Pittman could not afford in 2025, to have the lead that it did, an 18-point lead, and feeling like, all right, this is kind of what Arkansas typically does in Memphis. This is the way that you would hope this offense would come out. And for that ending to unfold the way that it did, it was just absolutely brutal on every level. I mean, no FBS team had blown a lead that big this year, and for it to happen for an SEC program against a Group of Five program, which I know Memphis fans aren't going to like hearing that, but that is the reality of the situation. It's the type of loss that's going to sting, and it's going to sting even more knowing the gauntlet that awaits.
Connor, the football is the ultimate team sport. Where would you go from here? You know, your AD comes out last week and says just, football's not ready, and I guess we can call him Hunter Kander. You're a check. Bobby Petrino, 10 points with his offense the last four quarters in the second half. Defense, not physical, not strong. I mean, there's so many things to point to. Is it a complete overhaul? Is Pittman out and you hire Bobby Petrino, although he's not doing much? Where does Arkansas go from here?
I think it's a fresh start. And I think it's a fresh start that's different than the post-Chad Morris era, which – I mean, for those that are saying this is the same thing all over again, let's not forget the humiliation of losing to a guy I very much respect in Ty Storey, but losing to Ty Storey in that Western Kentucky team the way that Chad Morris did in his final game, it was just way different than what we're talking about right now. There's certainly more respectability to what Arkansas has been able to build in the 6 years under Sam Pittman, but this thing has run its course. It's run its course, and it's time to start fresh. This is a really good market for a lot of these Group of Five coaches, and I know that Ryan Silverfield, the guy on the other sideline at Memphis, is going to be one of those guys that's going to be discussed a lot. I've already brought up the name Alex Golish, G.J. Kinney, who's someone that, like Jeff Traylor, was on that Chad Morris staff, so maybe there's a feeling of you don't want to go back to that well, but I think two guys that have really built up their careers since then, and there's just a really good market for a new head coach. John Summerall being another one of those guys who's done really impressive things so far at Tulane. I just think that it's time to be able to make this move, and maybe it means making Sam Pittman essentially the interim head coach for himself. But it feels like we're heading in that direction after the way that it played out on Saturday.
Were you surprised that Virginia Tech and UCLA made the moves they did with the transfer rule, that you get the 30-day transfer window? Because they made that change 3 games into the season. I know they're thinking, well, you got to save the season, but the way they were playing, I'm not sure there was much to save. I wonder what you thought of the timing of those firings.
I'm still not fully on board with we need to fire a coach in September thought process, because you're telling that entire locker room the season's over, right? So as much as you would like to be able to play the card of interim coach steps in and provides a shot of life, I don't think that's an easy thing to manufacture. I really don't. And I guess you can't have any less interest at UCLA following the way that they started and having a loss like that to New Mexico with Nico Iamaleava just not necessarily exciting the masses in Los Angeles. But, yeah, I'm not necessarily a believer that works. I'd kind of rather see more teams trend towards the 2021 LSU model of fire Ed Odron, agree to that buyout, let him be his own interim coach, know that a change is coming. Because what's worse, having this inevitable change just looming over the program, there's a better way to go about it. And I think, and I hope at least, that Arkansas will at least consider that possibility.
Hey, who's had the better start, Georgia Tech or Indiana, to start this college football season?
Phil and I, being unbiased Indiana guys, we will say Indiana. And that's not to disrespect what Brent Key has done at Georgia Tech. And I just love me some Haynes King. I wish that, like Diego Pavia, he could just play in college football forever. But, man, Indiana coming out and just dropping the hammer on Illinois. I know Illinois's got some depth issues right now with injuries that they're dealing with, but that was an unbelievable performance, a statement victory that was kind of unlike anything that they had last year with a team that was currently in the top 10. It's different to come out and beat Nebraska the way that Indiana did last year, but to come out and beat a program that a lot of people, myself included, were saying, I think Illinois' got a real legit playoff path. I think that surprised those who have been waiting for this to fall off. And trust me, I'm a jaded Indiana grad. I'm waiting for this to fall off the face of the earth, but Curt Cignetti's different, and this program has certainly turned a new leaf, and it looks like they're not going anywhere.
Would he be a coach that would be on the move? Could you see Arkansas going on for somebody like that?
But, what's interesting is I don't know that would make perfect sense for him with the talent acquisition the way that it's worked so far for him in Indiana. And I realize Arkansas has been able to hire a coach from the Big Ten before, and the Brett Bielema thing happened because he didn't have, obviously, what he was looking for with the support for his assistants, and was working through some behind-the-scene things at Wisconsin that he didn't have to work through at Arkansas. I don't know that that's the case with Indiana and Curt Cignetti. They've been willing to kind of roll out the red carpet for him, and that program is very much bought into his vision. So obviously, I'm going to be the first one to say, oh, no, he's going to stay in Indiana for forever. I'm not saying that necessarily that'd be the case. I just don't know that he would look at Arkansas situation with the hurdles that you would have to overcome in the SEC and say that was more attractive than staying at Indiana.
Why is Virginia Tech throwing so much money into athletics now? What did I see? Another 40-some million, and then next year another 60-some million into the athletics budget that wasn't there before. Is this trying to keep up with the rest of the ACC, or is this, they got to go hire a head coach? Are they about to throw money at somebody big?
I think they feel like they have to. I think they thought they took the cheap way out last time with Brent Pry, a first-time head coach who came from the James Franklin coaching tree, which has not necessarily panned out all that well in that regard. And I think they look at this now and go, well, what's going to be attractive? We've had really one head coach that's worked out, and it's a guy who built this program. And we're trying to find our next guy who doesn't have to be what Frank Beamer was, but has to be someone with a clue, because the ACC is very winnable right now. And at a time in which everybody's talking about dollars and cents and who from the ACC is going to go to this conference and that conference, Virginia Tech doesn't feel like a program that should be that far away. You've got the atmosphere. You've got also a really good recruiting ground as well, but you still need to be able to pour more into it. Miami's a really good example of that right now. Once you make that financial commitment, there's opportunity to be had. And so I don't think that Virginia Tech necessarily has the upside of Miami, but I just think that they've recognized if we don't start spending like a program that's serious, we're going to fade into obscurity, and it kind of feels like they're heading in that direction based on the start that they've had.
I got so many questions I want to ask you. I know we don't have all that much time. What's Arkansas's final record? I don't think they get to 6. I'm trying to find 2 more wins on this schedule. I don't see it. How many? What's when the season's over and we play Missouri, the final game of the year? What's Arkansas's record going to be?
4-8 is the number that I keep coming back to now that the Memphis game played out the way that it did. I would still look at the rest of that schedule and have a hard time finding 3 wins. I would. And who knows? For all I know, Arkansas is going to come out and play with its hair on fire and beat a Notre Dame team that, I don't know if you guys have been able to get into this yet, if you've been able to turn the page to Notre Dame. Not your older brother's Notre Dame defense. This is a Notre Dame defense that just let up 30 to Purdue and has been a shell of its former self without Al Golden. So who knows? Maybe Taylor Green's going to ball out and Arkansas is finally going to win one of these close games. Water will find its level in that sort of way. But no, I think it's more of a 4-8 team at this point. Just too many issues on the defensive side of the ball. Taylor Green, the turnovers that he was obviously trying to correct coming into this season, some of those bad decisions, you saw that play out against Memphis. And I think this is a team that's going to really struggle to get to bowl eligibility.
And the soap opera that's going in Clemson with Dabo Swinney. Does Dabo Swinney, is he the head coach? And I agree with him. I'm a Dabo Swinney fan, but I agree. I think he'll go somewhere else and win. And then sometimes when you're there for a decade plus, it's just you need a new messenger. It's just part of it. It's just how human nature. Dabo Swinney, the head coach at Clemson next year?
I think he'll find a way to still be it because he still wants the job and they're not firing him. It's as simple as that. It's not about whether or not Dabo meets the expectations of the media when he comes out and says that he believes that his team is going to go 16-0 and then they start 1-3. Dabo doesn't think he should have accountability for that because he won titles 7 years ago, 9 years ago. But for the rest of us, we now look at him as not being one of the elite coaches in the sport. His resume is elite, but when you lose your 4 consecutive games at home to power conference opponents, what does it say about you with a team that's supposed to have all this talent? I think he'll stay at Clemson. He's not probably leaving under his own fruition, but I do think that this is a reminder that he's not what he once was. And Clemson having the season that it has, it's a reminder that it's an adapt or die world, and if you're not willing to adapt to the current times of the sport, you get left behind.
Connor, last thing, this Notre Dame Arkansas game. Bet Saracen is a betting app that works only inside the state of Arkansas. They're a sponsor here. They've got the over-under for Arkansas Notre Dame, 64.5. It is the highest in FBS football for this game. Over or under? I think over.
I think so too. I mean, I really do. They just let up 30 to Purdue. Notre Dame struggles defensively with the things that they're working through right now. I watched Mario Craver, the transfer from Mississippi State, now doing really good things for Texas A&M. I watched him break, I think, 3 or 4 tackles on one 86-yard touchdown that are just inexplicable. Arkansas should put up points. Now, are they going to be able to tackle Jeremiah Love to save their lives? I would say probably not when you allow 290 on the ground to Memphis. That's usually not a sign that your run defense is figured out. Points. I would take the over. For all we know, they're going to hit the over by halftime.
You don't always win your first bet. That's why MyBookie has you covered. Use our code HOGS, H-O-G-S, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If your pick doesn't hit, you get it right back with our Bet Back bonus. Go to mybookie.ag and use the code HOGS to claim your Bet Back bonus. MyBookie's where bettors win together because bragging's good, but cashing in is better. And your first bet is fully covered. Use our code HOGS.
Must opt in during the bet to use the Bet Back bonus.